welcome to yet another edition of the Stats podcast. Where today we're going over NFL Week 2. Make sure you give this video a like and subscribe. Give a follow over on Twitter, Instagram, over on TikTok, anywhere there's social media. You're sure to find Stats Podcast. And again, I don't want to waste too much of your time. We want to go over spreads, go over picks, and honestly, throw a little fantasy thrown in there as well. So the very, very first game here, we are looking at a great one to start the week. We have Kansas City going up against the Los Angeles Chargers. Kansas City is a -4 favorite. We have the over-under set at 54. It's a Kansas City versus Chargers game. We have Mahomes versus Herbert. We're going to take this over 54. I don't care if the number was 60. We were going to take it. I know Keenan Allen is going to be out, but the Chargers still have a lot of offensive firepower, and then the Chiefs have Mahomes, and that's all you need. But at the end of the day, I am going to go ahead and agree with Vegas. I do think the Chiefs take this one. I know the Chargers played the Chiefs very tough last year. I know the Chargers supposedly got better, but I think without Tyreek, I just think that the Chiefs still have their number. They're still the big brother, and the Chargers are the little brother. So I'll take the Chiefs to cover 4.5. On the flip side, we have the fantasy value. Chargers have got a lot of firepower. You're going to start Justin Herbert. With Allen being out, you're going to start Mike Williams, even though he did nothing week 1. You're going to start Austin Eckler, even though he didn't do that much week 1. You're going to start Josh Palmer. I do not hate the Josh Palmer play. People are real in on Gerald Everett. One of his biggest plays was a broken play, so I'm not depending too much on it. I think Palmer is going to be the one that sees a lot of action. I know Carter went off last week. I'm really big on Eckler, Herbert, Carter, Mike Williams. I think those are the ones. On the Chiefs side, you're going to start Travis Kelce. You're going to start Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Clyde Edwards-Helaire was never a bad player. He's just very, very, very injury prone. So we saw that they like Isaiah Pacheco. It was not just preseason hype. So make sure you stash him if you're the CEH owner, or if you're just really desperate for a running back, you can go ahead and stash Pacheco. I have him on 2 of my fantasy leagues. Otherwise, you're going to start Mahomes. You're going to start Kelce. I don't think Juju's going to be that consistent. I know he did well last week. I just don't know who it's going to be each week. So that's about it. I'm just sticking with Mahomes, Kelce, and stashing Isaiah for a later point in time when CEH does get hurt, and start CEH. I'm sorry. Then the next game is probably the grossest game of the week. We go from one of the funnest ones or most fun ones to one of the ones no one cares about. We have the New York Football Jets, the Joe Flacco-led Football Jets going up against the Cleveland Browns. Over-under set at 40. Cleveland Browns 6.5-point favorites. I don't know, man. Part of me thinks the Jets cover. I don't know if they necessarily win, but I'll probably take the Jets to cover 6.5. And the over-under, I don't know, man. I think I'm going to take the under here, too. I know Kareem Hunt went wild last week, but I don't think that's an every week thing. I think he's going to do that like 7 times all year. You have to pinpoint the right time. You can still start him here. You're obviously going to start Nick Chubb, and that is it for the Browns. I'm not starting anyone else. If you want to start their DST, you can. But outside of their DST and Chubb and Hunt, that is it. Don't start Cooper. Don't start Brissett. Don't start Njoku. I'm not starting anyone but the running backs. On the flip side, man, the Jets, they said Michael Carter was their guy, and they showed it. I guess you could start him, but that's an extreme desperation. You have Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson. I don't want any piece of the Jets, especially with Flacco under helm, so I don't want them either. So the pick is going to be the Browns. I think the under hits, and I'm just starting the 2 running backs and calling it a day from both sides. Next game, we have one that's going to be a sneaky firepower game, and Vegas is onto it with it being 48.5. I'll actually take the over. I think the Lions, and they're a 1.5 favorites here. I think the Lions have a very good offense. I think their defense is ass. And I think that the Lions are going to be the Jags of when Blake Bortles and Allen Robinson were like Bortles was a top 3 QB in fantasy and Robinson was a number 1 because they were just playing a lot of garbage ball. That's exactly what's going to happen with the Lions here. On a betting perspective, I like the over, and honestly, I think it's dog or pass. I'll just go ahead and I'll take the Commanders money line and try to get some positive money out of it. On a fantasy perspective, I'll start Antonio Gibson here. Honestly, you can stream Carson Wentz if you're a Dak owner and you need a QB already right out the gate. You can go ahead with Wentz. You can go with Goff, honestly. Chase Young is still going to be out. You can start Terry McLaurin. Jahan Dotson, he's not going to score 2 touchdowns every week. If you want to roll him back out there, again, this is a good matchup. You can. Curtis Samuel seemed to go off last week. In a pinch, you can start him as well. You shouldn't, I mean, there's no buys yet. You shouldn't have to start Dotson or Samuel, but if for some odd reason, if you like didn't have a lot of receivers and you had Allen Lazard and you're looking for something, you can start either one of them. And of course, you start Terry and Carson. On the Lions side, start Amon-Ra. He's going to be a stud as always. Start DeAndre Swift. He's going to be a stud as always. You can stream Goff. DJ Shark, I'll probably leave it as is. TJ Hawkinson, you'll have to start contingent on where you got him, but or based on where you drafted him. And there's only so many good tight ends, so you'll start TJ as well. Then on the next game, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the Saints. We have the Bucks as 2.5-point favorites. Over under set at 44. I actually don't hate the under here. I think this is going to be an in division low scoring game. I know that the Saints always beat the Bucks at home, but I think it's too much going on right now. I'm going to go ahead and take the Bucks to cover the 2.5. It's less than a field goal. I'll take it. On a fantasy it's going to be close though, and it's going to be a low scoring ordeal. So I'll take the under. I'll take the Bucks to cover. And on a fantasy perspective, I'll start Mike Evans. I'll start Tom Brady if you have him. You start Leonard Fournette. You start Julio Jones in a pinch, and that is it. Don't mess with their tight ends. Don't mess with any other receivers. Don't mess with anything. I know Rachaad White saw a lot. Keep an eye on Fournette because he did leave the game, and no one's talking about it. But Rachaad White saw a lot of volume, so I think that was mainly because Fournette left. But just keep an eye on that. If Fournette's not there, Rachaad White the one you're going to start. Otherwise, I'm just starting Evans and Brady. And Julio if you need to. On the flip side, for the Saints, you're going to start Alvin Kamara. Ignore that he had a bad week 1. Shit happens. Man, their receiving core, they could all go off. Olave, Thomas, Landry. I don't know. You can start Michael Thomas. Jarvis Landry had a lot of volume. I think you could start Jarvis Landry. If anything, you start Jarvis and Michael, you leave Olave, if anyone. Jameis, if you have to stream, I don't know. I don't really like that either. Taysom Hill at tight end. You have to. So you want to play that game, you can. There's not a lot of excitement to start any Saints players outside of Kamara, but all of them are honestly pretty serviceable in a pinch. On the flip side, in the next game, we have the Carolina Panthers going up against the undefeated New York Football Giants. Giants are 2-point home favorites. Over under set at 43.5. I like the over here. And I think it's mostly going to be contributed by Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey. With the over under, I'll definitely take the over. And the pick, I'm going to take I'll take the Panthers. I don't think it's just a sheer dog or pass here. I think the Giants beat up on a Tennessee team that's not that good this year. And the Panthers lost a pretty bad game to the Browns, but they seem to pick it up at the end. And I think they're going to continue the momentum that they garnered from the end of the game. On a fantasy perspective, I'm going to start CMC clearly. Baker, let's just wait. DJ Moore, it wasn't the greatest outing, but he's a phenomenal receiver. You start him, and that's it. So I'm just saying CMC and DJ Moore and calling it a day. Don't chase that Robbie Anderson long touchdown. It's not worth it. On the flip side, I called Saquon as a top 3 running back this year, and here he goes. He's off to a good start. You definitely start that man. And that is it. I wouldn't start Kadarius Toney. I think he's going to be better than what he showed, but I'm not starting him yet. Obviously, none of the Sterling Shepherds or Kenny Galladay's or any of that stuff, not Daniel Jones. So literally just the running backs and DJ Moore, and we're calling it a day. All right, on the next game, we have one I like a lot. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers as a 2-point favorite going up, or 2-point dog going up, home dog going up against New England Patriots. Over under set at 40. I like the under in this game as well, and I like the Steelers to win outright. I don't think the Patriots are good. I think they're very, very bad this year. I said the Patriots were bad and the Titans were bad. And the Steelers won their first game against the Bengals. I know the Bengals shot themselves in the foot mostly, but the Steelers were there to capitalize. I don't think the Steelers are good. I don't think the Patriots are good. I think the Patriots are really, really bad this year. Mac Jones is a back injury. Devontae Parker is still ass. That's why I think that it's going to hit the under for sure. On a fantasy perspective, for the Patriots, you can start Damian Harris. That's about it. Honestly, I would say Ramondre Stevenson, but Damian Harris has hamstring injuries every single year. So I will probably just wait. Ty Montgomery got hurt, so maybe Ramondre will get a little more of the passing work, but I'll probably just wait for Stevenson until Harris has his first hamstring injury and is out for 3 weeks. Then I'll start Ramondre. So right now I'm probably just starting Harris. I'm not trusting Myers or anything like that. On the flip side, I don't know if Najee's going to play. They're saying he might. If he doesn't, I don't mind the Jalen play. If Najee does play, you have to play him based on where you drafted him. But if you have a second option for whatever reason, be weary of Najee. He is not going to be 100%. I wouldn't chase the Chase Claypool week 1 game with his rushing and everything like that. You can trust Deontay to an extent. Tight end, Pat Freiermuth if you have to. That's about it. There's not a lot of fantasy value in this game either, hence me taking the under. But I do think that the Steelers defense are going to eat the Patriots alive. So give me the Steelers as home dogs. Next game, we have the Indianapolis Colts going for revenge over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Over under set at 4. Over under set at 4.5. The Colts are 4-point favorites, and I don't understand that. I think they should kill the Jaguars. I understand they should have killed the Texans. They wound up tying, but they weren't feeding Jonathan Taylor if they were supposed to. They said they were going to pass a lot more. They tried it. It didn't work. They said, screw this. Let's just do what we did last year, give the ball to JTT. And then they came all the way back and almost won the game. So I think they're just going to start doing it that way and just do what they're supposed to. So they're also very, very pissed at Jacksonville for costing them the playoffs last year. They have a year's worth of frustration to let out and last week's tie. So at the end of the day, they should probably they should destroy the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the pick is going to be Colts. Over under, I'll take the over. I think the Colts come out here, score like 40 points, and then the Jags will try to do some garbage time and get at least like 10. Score will be like 40-10 and hit the over. On a fantasy perspective, you're going to start Jonathan Taylor. You're going to start Michael Pittman. That's about it for the Colts, in all honesty, that I feel comfortable with. Jacksonville, you can start Christian Kirk. He looked good week 1. James Robinson, if you picked him up, you can start him. Travis Etienne, don't give up on him yet. There will be some garbage time. It's not going to be his first game anymore. He had a little bit of case of the drops. Part of that could have been nerves. So I'm still going to trot Etienne out there. So I would start both running backs. Christian Kirk, call it a day. Next game is another one I'm fairly confident. I was confident in, but now I'm starting to waver a little. We have the Baltimore Ravens as 3.5-point favorites going against the Miami Dolphins. Over under set at 44.5. I'll actually take the over here. Miami is a weird team. I don't think they're good. I think their defense is pretty bad that no one's talking about. But the Ravens tend to slow things down with the amount they run. I don't know, man. I'll trust the Ravens. I don't like the 3.5. If it was 2.5 or 3, I'd like it a lot more. I don't like 3.5. I feel like there's probably going to be a field goal game. So I don't know. I don't think Miami's that good, but I don't like it being more than a field goal. I think I'll flip and take the Dolphins to cover. I think the Ravens win the game, but I think the Dolphins cover the 3.5. I think the half point is huge. And I'll take the over 44.5. On a fantasy perspective, you start Jalen Waddle, you start Tyreek Hill. You can start Chase Edmonds. I would not chase Gesicki. He's going to predominantly block in this scheme with the Mike Daniels scheme. On the Ravens, you're going to start Lamar. You can start Bateman. Yeah. I don't trust their decrepit running backs with Kenyon Drake and Mike Davis. I want no part of that. So just, and I wouldn't chase Duvernay. I need to see it one more time from him. That might have been a one-game fluke. So I would start Bateman and Lamar, and then I would start all the Dolphins receivers and Chase Edmonds and call it a day. Next game is another one I'm very confident in. The Rams is a minus 10.5 point favorites, and I think they win by even more. Over under set at 46.5. I will take the over. Again, I think it's going to be the Rams domination with some Falcons trash ball. On a fantasy perspective, I'm going to take Cooper Kupp clearly. You can start Matt Stafford in a stream if you had Dak. You can. Hey, Rob is weird. I don't know what to do there. You're going to have to play Cam Akers for where you drafted him. And if you picked up Darrell Henderson, you can play him too. It's going to be a split backfield. They'll both be able to produce against the Falcons, so you can start both running backs there. And obviously Cooper Kupp. A-Rob, if you have another option, I would sit him. If you have to play him, I wouldn't be as scared as he won't be as bad as week one. They might make him a focal point since week one was so bad. But I didn't like the comment Stafford made. If you have another choice, get rid of A-Rob and start someone else. Falcons side, Mariota, I don't know. I feel like he's going to be a streamable quarterback all year. I don't know about this matchup, but later on in the year, he definitely will be a streamable one. I would just wait a little bit. Kyle Pitts, you're going to start him. People are drafting him in the third round. You got to play him. Receivers, no one. I love Brian Edwards, one of my favorite players for no reason, but he's not going to do much there. Cordell Patterson, you start. He's the GOAT. He's cool. He just produces for absolutely no reason. So yeah, I would just go the usual suspects for the Rams, and then Cordell Patterson and Kyle Pitts for the Falcons. In regards to the next game, we have the Seattle Seahawks. 1-0 Seattle Seahawks. Let's ride. Going up against the 49ers. 49ers are 6.5 point favorites. I can see it. Over under set at 41. I like the under here in the division. Yeah, I'll take the under. I'll take San Fran to. I'm sorry, that says 8.5. 8.5. Okay. Sorry, I don't have my glasses on, so I recant my previous statement. I will take the under still, but I will take Seattle to cover. I think San Fran wins, but Seattle covers the 8.5. I think that's too many points. On a fantasy perspective, you start DK Metcalf. I'm petrified of Tyler Lockett. I would wait and see. If you have someone else, you start someone else over Tyler Lockett. If you have to, go for it, but God bless. You might be able to start Will Disley. Will Disley just does things for no reason. He just keeps finding the end zone. You can't stop. You can't keep that man out the end zone. So you can start Will. I'll probably start him over Noah Fant. Gino, I don't really want to stream. I'm leaving that alone. San Fran side, you're going to start Debo clearly. Dude, their running backs. Everyone and their mother is going to start Jeff Wilson all over the place. I am convinced that it's the healthy scratch and Terry and Price. I think he's going to be the guy. And then I think Jeff Wilson is going to be the guy that comes in and vultures the touchdown. So you can start both. I think you can start Price and Wilson. It sounds gross, but I have a gut feeling that's what's going to happen there. And then obviously you're going to start Kittle and Lance. So a lot of San Fran players being started there. Then the next game is probably one of the biggest locks here. We have the Cincinnati Bengals as big 7-point road favorites against the Cowboys at 41.5. I'll take the under. I'll take the under. I think the Cowboys score 10 points. I think that the Bengals score like 28-30, and it's going to be a real close under, but I do think the Bengals win by at least like 2 touchdowns here. The Bengals should come out and dominate after what happened last game. So the Cowboys losing Dak is huge. I do not trust Cooper Rush. No one trusts Cooper Rush. The run game is okay, but the Bengals' run defense seemed to look pretty good last week. Was that a part of Najee getting hurt? Maybe. Or it could have been their offseason where they did work on their run defense. So I'm going to think it's a little combination of both. And without any quarterback, it's going to be real easy to hone in on the running backs, and I think the Bengals are going to dominate. So I love them to cover. I'd probably take the under. And in a fantasy perspective, you have to start Zeke if you drafted him. You have to start CeeDee Lamb if you started him, but buyers beware on both. Bengals, you're going to start Joe Burrow. Even though he struggled last week, he still did all right on a fantasy perspective. Jamar Chase is an absolute animal. And you can start Tyler Boyd. I like Tyler Boyd this week with T. Higgins possibly being out due to concussion. And Joe Mixon, of course. Sorry, I almost forgot Joe Mixon. Some people were talking Hayden Hurst. I'm not in yet. Let me just see the receivers first. Let me see another week. Then the next game, we have the Houston Texans going up against the Let's Ride Denver Broncos. Broncos 10-point favorites. A lot of huge favorites this week. Over under set at 45. I like this to be very similar to the Bengals game. I think the Broncos dominate. I think the under barely hits, but I think it's because the Texans only score 3 to 10 points, and the Broncos go wild. I think the Broncos put up like 30 here. I think they have some frustration over last week. They also fumbled a million times on the 1 yard line, so that's not normal. They should have had 2 more touchdowns than they had. So all in all, the Broncos aren't the best team in the division, but I think they're better than the Houston Texans, and they should dominate here. I think they cover the 10. And on a fantasy perspective, you can start Javonte, you can start Russ, you can start Judy and Sutton, but I do like Sutton more than Judy still. I do think you can start Javonte and Gordon, but I like Javonte more. I just don't like the amount of work that Gordon got. I like that Javonte had the most targets out of any running back in the league. That was cool. But I don't like how big of a split that was. I hope that was a one-off situation. We will see. And in a pinch, you can start Albert O. Russ loves his tight ends. On the Texans side, is going to sound real gross, and start Rex Burkhead. You can start Brandon Cooks. I think he's an absolute animal, and that is it. Not starting any other Texan. Don't start Dameon Pierce. Just Rex Burkhead in the passing game and Brandon Cooks in the passing game. Speaking of passing, the Oakland Raiders are going to be 5.5-point favorites over the Cardinals. I love the Raiders to cover here. I think the Cardinals are going to be absolute hot ass until they're going to be straight booty sweat until DeAndre Hopkins comes back. Over under set at 51.5. Over. I'll take the over. I think the Cardinals put up a little more than they did last week with Kyler. And I think the Raiders score at least 30 something. They score like 35 points, and the Cardinals can do the other 20 or so. On a fantasy perspective, Devontae Adams is an absolute animal. He's the best receiver in the league. Well, him and Cooper Kupp, they're 1A, 1B. And Justin Jefferson. God. He's a top 3 receiver in the league. You can stream Derek Carr. You have to start Darren Waller. I don't know. I think Hunter Renfro's in some trouble, and I'm not a Josh Jacobs fan, but if you drafted him, you can start him here. For the Cardinals, you start Kyler. You can start Marquise Brown. That's about it. Zach Ertz is getting healthier, but he's still hurt, so I don't feel confident in that call. James Conner is obviously an animal. You start James Conner. But I'm scared he's going to get a lot of usage, and he's also known to get hurt often. So make sure, as I said, you have Isaiah Pacheco for CEH. Make sure you have Eno Benjamin for the Cardinals for when James Conner, not if, when James Conner goes down. But for now, start Kyler, start Conner, and you can start Hollywood. And then we have the Sunday night game. We have the Chicago Bears going up against their daddy and Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers is a -10 favorite. I don't even call them the Packers. It's just the Green Bay Rodgers. Over under set at 41.5. Over 41 under. I like the under here. I really do genuinely like unders in division games. And the Packers are going to struggle on offense right now, especially if Lazard misses again. But I think they just still find a way to beat the Bears. The Bears were fluky last week. Don't trust anything that happened with the Bears last week in that flood game. That's not normal. That was basically a snow game without snow. I don't know what was going on with that field. Lines weren't correct. People were using the field like slip and slides. It was an absolute travesty of a game. So I am not going to count. I'm not holding it against them. They won the game, but this is their week. This is their true week one. And it's in Lambeau Field, and Rodgers is going to kill them. I don't know if Rodgers covers, but they're definitely going to win the game in a very low-scoring affair. For Rodgers, if Lazard is in, you start Lazard, yet to be seen. You start Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. I have a league where I have both. I might start both, to be 100% honest with you. I think Aaron's going to get a lot more passing work. And Jones, I don't know. Dillon. They're both good, man. Honestly, you can just start them both. On the flip side, you can start David Montgomery. If you want to dabble with Mooney, you can. I don't feel great about it. Cole Kmet is not going to give you a goose again, so you can feel free to start Cole again. If Justin still does not look his way, definitely get concerned, but I'll try him one more time. I'll try him out there. And then that takes us to what is going to be the most fun game of the entire week, because we have the Buffalo Bills as 10-point favorites over the Tennessee Titans, a home opener in Buffalo. Over under set at 48. The Bills are going to do that by themselves. I'll take the over. Obviously going to take Buffalo at -10. The Titans have whooped our ass 2 years in a row. And by whooped our ass, I should say, actually devastated Bills fans. We had Josh Allen slip on the 1 yard line last week. That ended the game. And then the year before, something weird happened. And I remember it was also the COVID year where they made the game on like a Tuesday because the Titans refused to follow league protocol for COVID. So there are a lot of controversy in the last 2 or 3 years when we played the Titans. And we also played them in Tennessee both times. This game is a revenge game for us, and it's in Buffalo, and Tennessee is a lot worse this year. Derrick Henry always runs wild on us, so you can start him in fantasy, but they have nothing else. No one's scared of Robert Woods. No one's scared of Treylon Burks. No one's scared of Kyler Phillips or whatever. Like, no one's scared of their receiving core. Couldn't tell you who their tight end is. Is it still Anthony Firkser? No idea. Not a problem. Not scared of Ryan Tannehill. We're going to kill the Titans. For the Bills, you start Devin Singletary if you want. If you have to, if you're in a pinch, you lost like Eli Mitchell or something, you can start him. Josh Allen, you clearly start. Stephon Diggs, you clearly start. Dawson Knox is not going to give you one catch again. He'll do a little better. And Gabe Davis, you can clearly start. You can start all your Bills, basically. Then probably honestly the actual best game of the week is the last game here over on ABC. We have the Vikings as 2-point dogs against the Philadelphia Eagles at home. Over under set at 50. Give me the over. 50.5. Still give me the over. I'll pick the Vikings to win here. I think this is going to be another dog play. I'll take them outright. I like the Vikings a lot. They are my NFC pick to make it to the Super Bowl. And I like the over here. In regards to a fantasy perspective, man, it is a crowded backfield in Philadelphia. If you want to start Miles Sanders, you can. If you're in a pinch, you have to start the other ones. Honestly, you probably can with Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott. I don't know. I would just do Miles Sanders. I take that back. Just do Miles Sanders if need be. You start A.J. Brown. He seems to be a target monster. Devontae Smith isn't going to goose you again. You probably have a chance to go somewhere else. I wouldn't necessarily want to do Devontae, but if you have to, you can. And Jalen Hurts is probably going to be the number one fantasy player this year for football position or quarterback position. On the flip side, I think Justin Jefferson has potential to be the number one fantasy receiver. You start Justin Jefferson. Dalvin Cook had a good game without scoring last week. I know people were concerned about his score. It was still double digits and he didn't score. So give me Dalvin. Adam Thielen, I guess if you have to, I don't feel great about it. Kirk Cousins, you can stream if you need someone and you're a DAC owner. And that's week 2, man. I know we kind of flew through it, but it's a pretty good game. A lot of in division games and all the ones that aren't in division seem to have potent offenses going against each other. I like this week a lot. Football, it felt great to be back last week. And we're just going to keep it rolling. Won some money last week. We're going to do it again, baby. Let's get it.